Hi guys, so I'm Susanna Park from San Diego Fertility. I just want to make sure everybody's in the right breakout session. So I'm going to do my breakout session a little differently, and that's because you guys have been talked to all day. So I don't want to talk to you, I want you guys to talk to me. So I want to spend this session with you guys asking any questions you have about anything. And it doesn't have to be about SDFC, about anything. And there's no such thing as, oh my God, this is a stupid question. No such thing, okay? I'm just going to say just 2 minutes of something, which is that we've been doing this for many years. And the common theme I find when people attend a conference and they leave is, my head is spinning. I don't even know what's up and what's down anymore. And that's because you need a roadmap. Okay, and there's a very simple roadmap, which is break the journey up into 3 parts. So part 1 is wherever you live, get your sperm test, get your blood test, okay? And then you go to whatever clinic you decide to go to, give them your sperm, and they freeze it, you do your FDA blood testing, and your part's done, okay? Part 2, find an egg donor, fertilize, make embryos freeze, done. And then part 3 is you find a surrogate to transfer. So whenever you hear information, just put it into one of these 3 buckets, and it won't be so overwhelming. And do your journey in that order so it's not so overwhelming, okay? And the other thing I want to add is people often ask me, oh, you guys are full service. So we do have in-house egg donors, and the advantage to that is we don't charge an agency fee. We're not an agency, we're a medical clinic. And number 2, we've already paid for our egg donors to be medically vetted. So we paid for their psych, we paid for their genetic, we did all their egg testing, ultrasound, everything. But we absolutely and willingly work with private egg donor agencies because even though we have 150 active egg donors, it may not be the egg donor that you want. So we gladly work with private egg donor agencies. Even though it costs you more money, it's worth it. This is your baby for life, right? So you want to look at your baby and be like, oh, you came from that perfect egg donor. And you don't want to look at your baby and see like, well, he came from sloppy seconds, but you're still good, okay? So invest in the perfect egg donor, even if it means going to a private agency. Okay, so questions, any question? Good question. So the question is, can we have access to the database? Yes. So the website is egg donors with a plural, so EGGDONORS, eggdonors.com. You don't have to pay to look at it. You just create a password. And we're very transparent. So all these donors donated at our clinic, we have photos, medical history, family history, past donations, how many fertilized, what the outcome was. It's all there. Compensation, it's all there. In-house egg donors, yeah. We got a good website, didn't we? We worked hard to get that website, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
Can you go back and talk about your guarantee?
Yes, okay. No, great question. And so I'm just gonna stand here a little bit so I could see you. So this process should have a high rate of return, right? Because you're using an egg donor. And even though you guys may not have perfect sperm, the IVF process is so forgiving that we can manually select the best moving sperm normally shaped and put it into the egg, and that's called ICSI, okay, which I don't know how familiar you guys are with the term, but you'll hear more about it tomorrow at the medical panel. And then you're putting it into a woman who's already proven she can carry. But the truth is, we don't bat 100% as much as we try, right? So let's say I do a transfer, and the first transfer is not pregnant, okay? It's disappointing. But and every clinic is different, our success rate when we transfer one embryo is about 80%. Okay, so, but what if you fall into the 20% category? Okay, so we do another transfer, and your surrogate is pregnant, we're so ecstatic, and then at 8 weeks, we find out she miscarried. You're back to square one again. And what I don't want to do is nickel and dime you every time you come in for a transfer. So the success guarantee says you pay one price, and however many embryos we create, let's just say there are 5, right? If after transfer of all 5, not at the same time, right, little at a time, there's no baby, okay, pregnancy, not pregnancy, a baby, then we give you back 100% of the money you paid our clinic. But I can't give you back the money you paid to the pharmacy. I didn't get that. I can't pay you back the money you gave the egg donor. I didn't get that. But the money that I got, I will refund to you. Okay? And it's not for everybody, but who do I think it's for? It's for the person who is using their life savings to do this. They need to walk out of our practice, either baby in hand or money. Okay? It's for the person who's not a gambler. This is stressful as it is. I don't want to add financial stress to every step of the process. So that's who I think the perfect candidate or person is for the success guarantee. You're welcome. Yeah?
So if there, let's just, that example you gave, there are 5 embryos at the end, and then say the first one takes and you have a baby, great. What are the options with the other 4 embryos?
So we keep it frozen, and then whenever you're ready for a sibling journey, that's when we would defrost, again, usually just one, and then we just do the transfer. But then in that case, your success, is this about the success guarantee program, or is this just a medical? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so then we just defrost one embryo, and then the other 3 remain frozen.
So there would be another charge for the transfer?
Correct, correct, which is about, at our clinic, it's about $5,500. It's still a lot of money, I know, but it's all relative at this point, right?
But at that point, you can have the option to either freeze the embryos at the clinic and save them there for however long.
Correct, that's right. Another question I get commonly asked is, when we freeze your embryos, if there are 2 different sperm sources, we keep them in 2 different containers so that if you had one child, for the next one, I know whose embryo came from which sperm source. Oh, yep.
Kind of going along with that, though, like, say we have 2 kids. Done.
Yep.
What's we don't want a freezer rent.
Right. Great question. So,
Then donate those to other people?
yes. So, one is you can just ask us, but you have to put it in writing, please destroy them, and we will destroy them. Or 2, we have an embryo donation program at our clinic, which is for people who can't afford to create embryos from the beginning. And so you would then donate it to us, and then we would then offer it to somebody else anonymously. Yep. Not all clinics have that program, but we do have that program. Yep. Yes, so our annual, it's called our storage fee, is $500 for the year. And I don't know what the future price is because we are investing in this really cool company that is using this, it's kind of like smartphone technology to constantly be monitoring, because you guys have heard of tank failures that have happened in the past year, so to prevent that from happening. So once we get that technology going, that price may very well drop. But it's $500 for the year. Yep.
What happens if something happens when they're frozen? Is there any protection on that? Or
So like right now, we're not a long-term facility, so we have you ship it off to a long-term facility, and then there is insurance that long-term facility has.
I mean, is that something extra we have to do, or does that come with?
It comes with, I think, yeah.
Normally, how many eggs do you get and how many embryos do you create?
Good question. So on our egg donor website, there is a word called Antral follicle count. Okay, and there's a number listed. That number tells you how many eggs we are expecting from the donor. Okay, and tomorrow I'm going to be, because I'm talking tomorrow, there's a slide called the attrition rate. Let's just say it's 20. I get 20 eggs, but when I harvest, they're not all going to be great eggs. So let's see, we're now down to 15. When I fertilize, they don't all fertilize, 60 to 80% fertilization rate. So now your 15 is now, let's say, down to 11. We grow day 5, they're not all going to grow to day 5, so let's say you're down to 5. So do you see that even though you start off with 20 possible eggs, you're not going to have 20 babies. You're going to have about 5. So in general, you end up with 3 to 5 embryos each is considered normal. Good question, right? So let's say we have 5 embryos, then we do PGT. The typical rate of normal embryos with egg donor source is about 70 to 80% of your embryos will be chromosomally normal. So if I biopsy 5 embryos, I'm going to ultimately expect about 3 normal embryos. So you could see, right? You lose a lot.
So what are like the most common abnormalities you're going to find? Are there things that greatly affect the pregnancy, or like what are you?
So, good question. So you're talking about common abnormalities as in PGT testing?
Yes.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, PGT stands for pre-implantation genetic testing. Okay, it used to be called PGS, CCS, they're all the same thing. And that counts the number of chromosomes. So everybody sitting in this room has 46 chromosomes, 23 from the egg source and 23 from the sperm source, okay? But sometimes when the egg and sperm come together, mathematical errors happen. That is part of being a human being. And many of those mathematical errors never materialize in a pregnancy, or they miscarry early. But sometimes they get through Mother Nature. And that's how you have a Down syndrome child. Down syndrome means 3 copies of chromosome 21. Either the sperm source or the egg source contributed that extra copy. But especially with Down syndrome, it's usually from the egg source. But when you have an egg donor who's 20-something years old, most of the chromosome number that they contribute is going to be 23, and that's why the rate of abnormal chromosomes, called aneuploidy, is low. Versus if you use an egg source who's 42, I will tell you 50 to 100% of those embryos, if you do the PGT testing, will be abnormal. So the question was, I'm sorry, I forgot your question already.
Well, that kind of does answer my question.
Okay.
What abnormalities you
Oh, yes.
So if it was a case like trisomy 21, would we still have the option to use that embryo? I mean, if that's not an issue for us as
Sure. So it's very clinic dependent. I'm a firm believer of informed decision. I have, and I will continue to transfer abnormal embryos, absolutely, as long as the intended parents understand the implications of that, right? So some people will transfer abnormal embryos because that's all they have. And again, it's usually not the egg donor world, right? And I will transfer it. And I have had 2 instances last year already where it was chromosomally normal, and one was not an egg donor, one was. And in January, I got an email from the intended parents who live in Argentina that it's actually Down syndrome. So this PGT is not 100% accurate. Okay, so please don't think it is. It's not. It has an error rate. And I just transferred, well, just a few months ago, transferred an embryo that was abnormal, and she just had her baby on Sunday, and the baby's fine. So it cuts both ways.
So 2 questions then. What is the error rate?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second question is, I've heard it's not really necessarily fed well I have before.
Absolutely.
I've heard some of the clinics say that they won't necessarily do 2 embryos at once. So can you tell us about your philosophy?
Absolutely. So the error rate for PGT is about 5%. However, PGT was not made for egg donor embryos. They were made for my 40-year-old woman sitting in front of me suffering with infertility, right? But when you apply a test to a patient population in which the disease is not frequent, such as aneuploidy in egg donor embryos, the error rates go up. So the error rate is probably closer to 10 to 15%. Okay, but the companies will quote less than 5%. Transfer of 2, yes. So we are one of the few centers left in the world that will still transfer 2 embryos. Fact, it is true, if you have twins, it's potentially a more complicated pregnancy, absolutely. But my philosophy is, you guys are not children, right? It's about informed decision. So I then educate you, here are the risks of twins, here are the things that may happen. Are you still willing to take that risk? Okay? Because I understand it's so expensive to find another carrier to carry, right? It's not like it's $10, right? It's a lot of money. And so I understand why people want to carry 2. And it is possible to transfer 1 embryo from each sperm source at the same time. But the other side of that coin is, just because I transfer 2, I can't guarantee that you will have twins. At our center, our twin rate is about 50%. Other questions? Okay, so I'm going to talk about another topic that patients often get confused is genetic testing. So you had asked a great question about the chromosomes, right? I know, it's okay. That's all right. No. About the number of chromosomes, the PGT. Don't get that confused with DNA mutation testing. Okay, so DNA mutation testing doesn't count the number of chromosomes. It looks at people with the correct number of chromosomes at the DNA sequence. So, for example, cystic fibrosis. 1 in 24 Caucasians is a carrier for cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a disease where both chromosomes on chromosome 7 have to have the mutation. But if only 1 chromosome has the mutation, chromosome 7, and the other one doesn't, you're just a carrier, but you're not sick from the disease. But what if you don't know you're a carrier for cystic fibrosis, and what if your donor is as well, but you don't know that, and now we put it together, and now you have a child who actually has cystic fibrosis. So one of the other genetic tests you do, and this is not done on the embryos, it's done on you guys, and the egg donor is checking your blood for different common DNA mutations to make sure you guys are not a match. We all have mutations. You just want to make sure you don't have the same mutations as that of the egg donor.
Has that screening already been done on your in-house egg donor?
Which we paid for, yeah. And so it helps if you know you do your DNA testing and then you just make sure. So what we tell our intended parents is don't commit to a donor, just put them in your box of favorites. And then once your DNA mutation test results come back, then when you filter through the VRI, just make sure you guys don't match. Yep. Yep.
You said to do our blood work and stuff like that. Is there a certain name for that test that we should be doing here to have all that done?
Yep. And so usually what we do is we do a Skype consultation after the conference, because most of you guys don't live in San Diego. And there's no charge for it, it's free, and it's about an hour. And then after that Skype consultation, we work in the concept of a team. So I write a summary email to you, and all your team members are CC'd. So immediately when my medical assistant sees that, boom, here's an email, here's the list of tests that you need to do. It just gets sent out to you guys. Yeah. We have a pretty streamlined process. 1 minute. Oh, okay. Yeah? Yeah.
You guys work with satellite clinics? Like, would you guys work with a clinic with the city that we live in that can send you guys blood test results?
Yep, so your blood test you can do with a primary care doctor. Like you don't need a fertility clinic. And your sperm, you can either go to fertility clinic or your primary care doctor can give you a requisition. So you don't need to go to a local clinic. Most of our intended parents don't live in San Diego. They live elsewhere, and we have a lot of international patients. So then you just have to come to San Diego, give me 3 to 4 hours of your time, and then you are a free man. You don't ever come back again.
And is that for the implantation?
Oh no, you come to give me sperm, which we freeze. Oh, you're welcome to come back for the implantation. But yeah, but no, you raise a good point. Thank you for reminding me. So oftentimes I've intended parents who feel like, wow, well, I don't want to see like the private area for the transfer. And I tell them, no, you won't. Like, I want you in the room, but you're going to be behind her head. So you are facing me, she's facing me, and I'm facing you guys, because we televise everything at our fertility center. So you will see an ultrasound as the catheter goes in, and I drop off the embryo. You will see as we put your embryo and we pick it up to put into the catheter to do the transfer. We televise all of that. But if you're not there, because most of our intended parents don't show up, and that's okay, I have the surrogate film it. Like while she's having the procedure done, she films the screens.
Does the egg donor ever have to go to San Diego?
To get her eggs taken out, yeah.
So that's obviously in addition. So it would be the egg donor having to go. It would be the sperm donor or whoever the sperm is coming from, and then ultimately the surrogate would have to go.
Right. But if your egg donor is in our database, they all live in San Diego. Yeah, so it's not an extra cost. But you're right, if you pick an egg donor who doesn't live in San Diego, she does have to travel for the harvest, yeah.
Are there surrogacy companies in San Diego?
There are, yeah. And what I tell all intended parents is please meet as many surrogacy agencies as you can and just figure out who you have chemistry with. And then during the Skype, I will ask you, so what did you think of the different surrogacy agencies? And then I give you my opinion, and then I try to help you find the right fit. Yeah.
Do you recommend certain agencies, or you try not to?
Oh, timeout. Sorry. Okay, I'll tell you in private. I'm getting the hook's gonna come out soon and grab me.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you.